It's much better than the what we're using at the moment to do it. Much better than the Green Star.
Well, the Green Star, this machine is 4.5 feet long, 4 feet high. It's big. It's like a green power juicer, only it's all stainless steel and big.
Okay.
And then I bought a machine which can take the husk off of a coconut in 10 seconds.
Really?
Wow.
They train me to do it, and the people who make the machinery, they could do it in 3 seconds. Do a whole coconut in 3 seconds.
Right?
Wow. Shell it, and then there's a machine that grates it, and then the gratings go into the juicer. So we'll have coconut cream available again.
Wow.
So we'll make that available.
Probably even
once
a better
month.
quality because we're not going to let any moldy coconut get into the mix as the other company did.
Wow.
So the products that we get here, you order on Friday, for the first Friday of the month, and they come the next Tuesday. So that will be among them. We get all the products from James, everything that's available up in LA, which is a lot of great products. And then you'll get the product list. If you're new on this list today, you'll get the product list that says everything that's available.
It always has the right price on it, but I remember.
It's always changing, so I can't keep up with the price list.
So don't worry.
Pretty much.
Don't get uptight.
Thank you, Bob.
Okay, everybody's noticed how thin I am?
Yes.
Okay.
Wasting away.
No, actually, the fat level is staying high. I'm now 20% fat. I was 22 about 3 months ago, so I've lost 2% fat because I'm going through a detox and a cold. But I thought that, there would be 5 generations, about 38 to 40 years before I'd have all the old toxic fat molecules out of my body. When you eat a cooked food, the fat molecule has swollen anywhere from 10 to 50 times its normal size. So you can imagine the girth that people have. Only the tribes that eat, like the Fulanis that eat 90% dairy, do they have more girth in their bodies. But the Samburu and Maasai are very tall and very thin, yet their fat level is 18 to 20%. Because the fat molecules are very small. Well, I'm at that point now, so I'm a 30-inch waist, 29 at my low side, 33 top. So I'm a 31 right now. So in the last 2 years, my body has detoxed a tremendous amount out of the bone. So even my bones have shrunk, but everything's dense, no osteoporosis. So this will be the ultimate skinny diet eventually, but I don't want anybody to think
35
thin
years
now.
or so? Or
Well, I have to look at it. It's been 34 years since I started eating all raw food.
But
With meat.
So it took me
since
34
when were you eating the raw meat?
Well, I started eating the raw meat in 76, so that's 30 years. It'll be 30 years in September since I've been eating raw meat, and then eating raw meat on a daily basis was 82. So it takes a while. But the raw food, you have to count from the time I started raw food, not raw meat, because that's when I stopped eating the cooked fat.
Well, everybody's going to be different, too. Right?
Everybody will probably be different. I have one lady who's only been on the diet 14 years, and she's trimming down. She's keeping a high fat level, like 24%, but she's really skinny now. So she did it in 14 years. She had breast cancer. So people will do it at different stages. But it took me 34. So get used to me thin. I'm not used to being thin.
How interesting. So you didn't change anything.
No, didn't change it finally.
So
Well,
how do you know
there's
your
one
body
thing that
does
I
it?
changed. A year and a half ago, I forced myself to get a tapeworm. And I had constipation for 57 years. Even on a raw diet, I move every day. But that first part of my bowel movement would be very dry, and it would rip my rectum. And before I went on a raw food diet, I only went every 3 to 5 days. And it would tear my rectum completely, and there was always blood. I bled for 50-some years. And when I forced myself by eating the fermented milk with the mocha and the fermented sugarcane juice, I got a tapeworm from it. It kept the tapeworm for about 3 months. Passed about 85 feet of it in two separate movements. Pardon?
Wow. 85-foot long.
Yes, 85 foot long.
Wow.
40 feet one time and 45 another
So you
time.
didn't attempt to release it.
It just, well, I got a craving for an onion. And, I just ate a half of an onion in a sitting. I said, what the hell am I doing? And the next morning, that evacuated, 45 feet of the tapeworm. I thought, oh, shit. I worked all this long to get a parasite here. I knocked him out with the onion because I could smell him coming out with onion juice.
Wow.
So, but then I saw, a week later, I saw little sections coming out again here and there. And I said, okay, he's still around. So then about a month and a half later, I passed another 40 feet.
Did it take care of your constipation?
Yeah, I haven't had constipation since.
Ah.
Yeah, they never come out larger than, let's say, that, instead of the size of my fist.
And what was the mechanism? Why the tapeworm?
Tapeworm just changed the environment.
Well, how?
I don't know.
That's fascinating.
It's like, Joel Weinstock. He gave the people with inflammatory bowel syndrome who had been suffering from 10 to 32 years no, mitigation from it. And if you know anybody who's had inflammatory bowel syndrome, no matter what they eat, even if it's water, they get cramping and severe pain and diarrhea all the time. They live with it every day, every time they eat or drink anything. So it's a miserable disease. And he gave them the whipworm from the pig. 5 days later, no digestive problem, just like that. All the symptoms went away. Not even on a raw diet. They didn't change their diet. They just drank a whipworm and Gatorade, which the Gatorade neutralized the hydrochloric acid, so it didn't destroy the eggs. So the eggs incubated. They got the whipworm and resolved all their problems. Of course, they were back 5-6 months later asking for more worms because they started having problems again because they didn't change their diet. But how does it work? Who knows? There were 8 scientists who came out with a report last year that followed up on his work, and they did it for, I think it was 11 years they did the research on it. And they found that the whipworm produces 3 chemicals that prevent brain tumors and pancreatic tumors, and a whole plethora of chemicals that protect the body and make the environment good. So,
why can't they isolate those and just give you those chemicals rather than have to have those worms? Aren't they contagious?
because the worms, no, that's all bullshit.
It's not infectious to other people?
So when do you recommend them to people?
Anytime you want. Anytime you want. But it's, it's hard on a raw diet. It's hard to get them past the hydrochloric acid. So if it's a high alkalinizing environment that they need to be put in, see, I never thought of that. I put them in an alkaline fluid, but I never thought of putting them in vegetable juice or something like that. So alkalinize the hydrochloric acid. So probably be a good idea to eat some cheese first if you want to create a parasite. I have some people doing it now with some pig's intestines to get the whipworm. And one of them did it about 2 months ago. So I had him drink the cheese and then eat the intestine. with some vegetable juice to alkalinize the system. So he has no intestinal problems, within a week after eating it. And another man who's 62 years old, who I've been working with for 6 years on the diet. Like me, he's had a constipation problem. I got him to get in touch with that person who had the pig's intestine. He said, ever since he ate that, hasn't had a problem. Just like that, just from eating it one time.
Where are you going to market it?
It's against the law.
Yeah, I'm sure it is.
It's against the law. The small intestine.
Oh, the small, not big.
Not the large intestine, small.
Oh, cooked. Yeah, that's cooked.
It's cooked. Yeah. Pork rinds are all cooked.
That's skin too.
Yeah, that's the alcohol in it. The acids will destroy any parasite.
Yeah, wouldn't the health department have a field day with that? Because they're so
absolutely
paranoid about trichinosis and...
So we'll isolate the trichinosis and sell it.
Well, Joel Weinstock did. He knows how to do it. So if you want to know how he does it and set up your own pharmaceutical to do it, you're just going to have to do it underground.
Where's he located?
Joel Weinstock is at Iowa University.
Iowa?
University of Iowa. It's in the book, the recipe book. And it quotes, what he found, that experiment with those 6 people.
But that brings up a good point for new people, just when you can't talk about this guy with people because they go freak out. You tell them anything like this, they're going to go report you to the agency.
No, they haven't. Nobody's done
Not you,
it.
but I mean, they'll think your relatives think you're crazy, your friends think you're crazy.
Oh, I don't care. I have the health they don't, so I don't give a shit. And if they say, oh, you're going to get sick and die, so I've been doing this for how long now? I'm healthy and you're not? That tells me everything.
Your health will die.
As long as I die, healthfully, I don't care. Doesn't matter how many years I live, so I live healthfully. I've been through enough pain and suffering and illness.
How did you measure your fat? You said you measured your fat. What did you do to
There
measure
are
it?
2 ways to measure the fat content of your body. There's a scale, and you put your height in it and stuff like that. And there's a way that it measures your fat level. And then there's this like a high blood pressure machine that you put around, and it's an electro field.
Capacitor.
Pardon? Capacitor.
Yeah, capacitive measurement.
And it measures the fat level.
What about the ones that you hold in your hands?
I've never tried one of those, so I don't know.
The health food, the gyms have them.
Oh, yeah? Yeah.
24-hour fitness, LA Fitness.
I don't go to gyms. I don't exercise.
Well, just walk in there and ask for an evaluation for
How do
free.
you know it's not big muscle? I'm sorry, I'm confused. How do you know it's not bigger muscle? How do you know it's fat and not bigger muscle?
Because of the way they've measured it out, they're able to, the electromagnetic, the feedback, the biofeedback tells the machine, because it has a certain resonance. Fat has a certain resonance. So when it comes back, it tells how much resonance is fat, how much is bone, how much is muscle. They can differentiate
But you
that.
need that machine. You wouldn't want to use it. You have to look it up properly, I think.
Yeah. Well, the scale, for some reason, I don't know how they did it, but the scale works almost within a percentage or less than 1%.
Well, the old way was a caliper measurement. You can pinch,
Yeah.
and you can go on charts. So a lot of people know how to do that. That's pretty simple.
Yeah.
But that's less effective than the electronic.
Okay.
But when I was, when I was getting ill, I like to stay up around 27% fat. So I usually looked about like 10 here. So that's the way I like to hold my weight. But in the last 2 years, I've been getting rid of a lot of old fat molecules that has shrunk my bones and everything to where I was when I was a teenager.
Why is that?
Because I've gotten rid of all the skeletal structure that was built with old fat, swollen fat molecules.
So you're eating the same, and just your body's
Yep,
changing.
absolutely.
So you only have 5 more years and you're going to be totally clean? You said it takes 40 years.
Yeah, it takes 40 years. Yeah, so I've got 6 more years. No, that's, well, let's see, I've had, of eating meat on a daily basis, I say it's from the time you start eating meat on a daily basis. But it may be just going raw for me, I don't know. For raw, I've been eating raw since 72. So 82, 92, and so that's 30 years. 34 years. 34 years. So 6 more years to 40. But I thought it was eating meat on a daily basis, because that's when I got the real health and energy, when I started eating the raw meat, and that was in 76. So that's 30 years. So I really have 10 more years to go, but that's theoretical.
As far as Americans are concerned, I mean, if we stayed on this diet when you started when you're 25, and you stayed, would you look so much younger when you're 75? Or versus, like you said, people from the tribe? I mean, would they not get the wrinkles? Would they not get...
They don't get the wrinkles. They don't look like
No,
that.
they
don't get all
I'm
dry
just
and
saying,
wrinkled.
The average American, because we've also eaten so food up until that point, and when you switch over, do we expect to look younger down the road?
Down the road, well, you have to understand that most of the toxins leave through the skin. So the skin's going to take the brunt for a long time. So it'll probably be the last thing to repair and heal. However, there's some people whose skin is very important to their body, and they look like miracles, within months of starting the diet. Yep. I mean, especially the Polynesian and the Asian men and women. They start eating this diet, and my God, their skin is just phenomenal.
A lot of them have it genetically. I mean, look at them.
Yeah, but you see them in their 40s and 50s, and they're all just shriveled up badly. They age faster than any other culture. When they're in their youth, before they hit 40, no lines anywhere. But boy, when they hit their mid and late 40s, they just shrivel up like a raisin. If they go on this diet, it pops right back out pretty quickly.
Do you expect your skin to get better as you get older?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. It is. It is already. I don't have all that breakout anymore. Yeah. And the lines here are getting lighter. 4 years ago, I had about 12 layers of skin here. Now I only have about 6. So it's half of what it was. When I lived outdoors as a vegetarian traveling on a bicycle, I looked like those Indians. I was dark skinned and had this thick skin. It was wrinkled all over. And eventually it dissolved and went away. So
wrinkles toxins?
Pardon?
Or wrinkles toxins?
Well, it's toxins that have buried in the skin, and the skin has killed the cells and mummified the cells, so it's like leather. A lot of the cells aren't alive. And you get layers of them. You're supposed to have only 3 layers of skin. The thicker the older you get, the thicker your skin gets often. Unless you're doing laser surgery or, peels and acid burns to keep taking the layers off.
I thought old people get that transparent, their skin gets thinner, and that wrinkles are because of the skin being thin.
That's when you get up into your 60s. Then it goes the other way. Your body starts eating its own protein. Because people of that age stop digesting proteins and assimilating cooked proteins. So then they start eating their own bodies, so then the skin gets thinner and thinner and thinner. The body starts eating the bones, so they get osteoporosis.
And why is that again?
Because they stop digesting.
Stop
digesting food. So the body eats itself.
I mean, cooked food.
Yeah, stops eating cooked food.
Cooked food.
You know, the intestines stop digesting cooked food. You eat raw food and it changes. Mine was down to here. After the poison mushroom, mine went like this. Yeah, so it's yeah. And you can put. I have experimenting with some people now with that. And they're putting saliva and honey on their necks, and it's working very well.
Gets rid of a double chin that way?
Saliva?
Yes, saliva. I tried putting, mixing the honey with water. It denatures it, but the saliva doesn't. And you have ptyalin enzyme in the saliva, which helps break down sugars, so for proper absorption. So that's probably another reason it facilitates the honey. And that way you can put it on so thinly your face isn't sticky all day, just for maybe an hour.
Fall asleep when the ants catch it.
It's funny, with the saliva in the saliva in the honey, the ants don't bother it.
No, but I tried some of that, and the problem was the ants got around the honey, because it's by the bed.
Put it in
Yeah,
a
I'm
bowl
talking
of
about on
water.
your body, not on the
Put it in
honey
water.
next
Put
to
it in a
your
bowl of
bed.
water.
So what kind of ratio saliva?
About 50-50. Maybe a little bit more saliva than honey. And it also keeps the lips from drying. Very wonderful. Better than butter or any of it.
Honey and just letting it absorb very slowly for half an hour.
It's a humic.
Yeah, very nice.
Your own saliva? You put your own saliva?
Okay, we're going to start question and answers now. So let's begin here.
Yeah, the question I see in your book, it talks about slowing down a detoxification. It talks about the bath, half hour bath. And you recommended me doing the bath or rinse that and cleansing. So the bath is a wonderful form of anybody.
Well, the baths, you have to understand that we've eaten vegetable oils. Most of what we've eaten is the best vegetable oils because of the propaganda, margarine and all that garbage. Mm-hmm. Propaganda was that hardening of the arteries and heart, hardening of tissue came from cooked animal fats, Get off of animal fats, have margarine and vegetable oils. Well, your vegetable oils, especially your hydrogenated oils, crystallize. Hydrogenated vegetable oil is the same molecular structure as plastic. That's how plastic is made. So it's absolute bullshit what they've been telling us. Vegetable oils cause hardening of the arteries. Humans' body temperature is about 98.6 or lower. Herbivores who eat vegetables with vegetable oils have body temperature about 101 degrees. We will not stay that warm. So vegetable oils in the human body have a tendency to dry out at lower temperatures and crystallize. And that's what causes hardening of the arteries and hearts and multiple sclerosis, along with iodine and a lot of other problems. But it's vegetable oils is the culprit. To get that to melt in the body, to be able to dissolve it by the lymphatic system and discharge it from the body, it takes heat. So you have to get in the bath, stay a minimum of 45 minutes to an hour and a half. Take a walk afterwards, about a 45-minute walk. Before you get in the bath, like I say in the book, you have pineapple, coconut cream, and some honey. Drink that mixture with a little bit of butter and cream too, dairy cream. You drink that before you get in or right as you get in. Then you take the 45-minute walk, and you're going to feel as limp as a noodle and not feel like taking any walk when you get out of that bath. So you move very, very slowly because the blood sugar will be very low because you melted that stuff and started perspiring out of the body. So the blood sugar is going to be very low, so you have to move in slow motion. Out of that bathtub, onto the toilet seat or a chair, and it shouldn't be far from the bath. You dry yourself slowly, bundle up in very warm clothes like you're going out to the snow to stay very warm for your walk, and you take a very mild 45-minute walk.
Did you get the same results from sweat loss? No.
Sweat lodge, you have lots of carbon monoxides from burning the ashes and the herbs and burning the rocks. When I do sweat lodges, I lay back flat on the floor, flat on the ground, and you've got a 12-inch to 16-inch layer of good air that stays there, and the smoke doesn't come down below that. It just seals it. So I'm down there breathing up the side when everybody's up there in that smoke and the steam and suffering. I'm down there on the ground enjoying the better air. But still, it doesn't get as hot there, so there's not as much sweating. Steam bath, the problem is you got the steam that goes and burns the mucous membranes. So that's not very good. Causes blisters and all kinds of problems. Thins the mucus too much. Saunas are too dry. They burn the mucous membranes all the way down the system. And because it's dry, when you perspire, the toxins that come out with the perspiration get dried right into the skin. So if you do saunas, you have to go out every 3 minutes and rinse off thoroughly and then come back in. And you can't get the body heated up deeply into the lymph system and the connective tissue unless you stay in that heat for 45 minutes to an hour and a half.
I have a question on this, but didn't a lot of people, when they had like the 9/11, the firemen got all better from doing saunas because they were exposed to all those toxins and they were what is your comment on that?
Well, they were drinking a lot and discarding a lot, but they weren't on a good diet. And eventually, their skin would have been worse. They got better internally, but their skin would not get better, nor their sinuses.
How about Bikram yoga? You get all heated up, you're working out.
It doesn't. You don't get hot enough.
Okay.
Take your body temperature, and you may get up to 99.5 degrees. You've got to hit 101 degrees. So that water temperature has to be minimum of 101 to 105. And you have to keep it at that. So you have to let the water out about every 15 to 20 minutes, some of it, about 3 inches of it. Put scalding hot water in, and also the mixture that I suggest of the milk and the vinegar and the sea salt in there, or Epsom salt in the water, so it'll help pull out the toxins and keep the water warmer for a longer period of time.
Do you ever go hotter on it?
You just can't stay in it that long. If you go really hot, you just can't stay in it. People are out in 35, 45 minutes if they get it too hot. It should be 45 minutes to an hour and a half.
Peter in an hour and a half. I fell asleep in just 2 hours just a few nights ago.
Yeah, but the water cools so
no,
much.
I had it off. I had it off.
Oh, you had a.
I have a reheating.
Oh, so you have like a jacuzzi.
No. No, but I mean, I just got it out and fell asleep again for another 20 minutes.
Oh, I see. And you just
so
kept
I did
waking.
2 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great.
So the fats in the bath absorb the toxins that are coming out?
No, they absorb the toxicity in the water. If you have well water, you don't have to worry about the milk, but it still helps soothe the skin as the poison minerals and toxins come out. That little bit of fat in there keeps the skin from being damaged and drying too much.
But if the fat
coconut
in the
cream
bath
in it is helpful.
absorbing the toxins from the water, when you stand up and it coats your body, or are you then putting the toxins on your skin?
No, because it stays in the oil. It doesn't get reabsorbed into the
So you
skin.
don't have to shower off after.
You don't want to. You don't want to shower off. You just take what I suggest that you do is take a silk or a cotton cloth, and after you've been in there, right before you're ready to get out, or even while you're in there after, every 20 minutes, just wipe the dead skin off. And then when you get out, you might get all down to several layers of the dead skin, so you all have all fresh, live skin on the surface. And it will have some moisture if you have the coconut cream and the milk in there, so your skin won't be dry.
That's coconut cream and milk in the water?
Yeah.
Is that in the book?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
If your hair's got smelly by then, you really do have to wash it out, isn't it? You walk around with the milk.
Well, I don't have that problem anymore, but
yeah.
I did years ago when the perspiration was so toxic coming out of my head. I don't have that kind of foul toxin anymore that it causes that moldy, smelly smell in the hair. But that's not from what's in the water. It's from what's in, your body. And the milk will attach to that, and it makes it rank.
It makes a funny smell.
So you need to rinse your hair. But I just dip down in it and, wash it thoroughly, even when my hair was rank. If you get out without dipping your head down in there and rinsing your hair out in that water, your hair will be rank.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Do you have a question?
Yeah, I had a question on mercury detox. You told me I had a lot in my body. How would you go about detoxing from mercury?
Well, you don't want to force detoxification of heavy metals, with tremendous amounts of cilantro or anything like that until you've been on the diet a year and a half minimum. If you want to detox heavy metals a little bit safer, then eat oysters almost every day, like 6 days a week, with some beef. Like for you it would be a cup of beef with 3 oysters twice a day. And that'll help remove it more quickly, safely. Do you have a question?
Yeah, what about jacuzzi? I mean, I love my jacuzzi, but
I use a jacuzzi.
I'm concerned about the chemicals in it. So what do you use?
I don't use anything. I use a sand filter in mine.
Where do you get
I have a Hayward sand filter. I use a swimming pool size filter, so I have to change it every 5 years. So it's 300 pounds of sand.
Really? It could fit into a traditional jacuzzi? Or you have to have it specially fitted or what?
You'd have to have it specially fitted because that filter is about this big, and it keeps that water crystal clear. It won't stop algae, but I like the algae. I let algae grow in mine. I'll just scrape when it gets, the algae is like velvet. It's like laying on velvet, so it's like wonderful. But when it gets too long, I'll scrape it out and dump it and use it in my garden. Boy, does it make the plants grow. That and raw urine. The nitrogen in raw urine. You should see a fern that I planted 2 years ago. It has grown. It was this small in a pot. And with that algae and my urine and eggshells, it is now as big as that whole area over there of that garden. Just one fern. It's growing everywhere. And my roses are like this big when they were originally this big. It really works.
So you put milk in your jacuzzi or not? No. So what do you
don't need it because I got well water.
Oh, I see. So yeah.
But if I didn't have well water, I would put coconut cream in it.
That wouldn't foul up your filter?
No, it doesn't.
What about a cup of vinegar?
Vinegar? Be okay? Fine.
That kills you. That knocks down the chlorine and the chemicals, right?
Well, yeah.
I mean, that's like when I
if
go
you're
to
using regular city water, you need something.
Well, no, when I go to 24-hour fitness, I bring I have
Vinegar with it. Yeah, like I said, you just dump
But
vinegar
it
in
screws
it.
up the day, but
I used to go to those, deprivation tanks.
Right.
And boy, they've got, salt and chlorine galore. So I'd take a bottle of vinegar and I'd dump it in there because I'd go for, 6, 8 hours at a time. And they would say, boy, you're really rank. Boy, it smells like some kind of acid shit in there. I said, well, you clean them out every, so often anyway, so clean it out after I get out. Because I don't tell them I put vinegar in it. Because I don't want to get in all that, chlorinated water. And the vinegar neutralizes the chlorine.
So if you go to a friend's house, you bring your vinegar and dump it in?
yeah.
Well, when I used to go to swimming pools, I would do that. I would take a couple
So then
of cups
if
of
you're
vinegar.
neutralizing it, then the stuff's going to start growing in it again pretty quickly.
No, vinegar stops that from growing. Vinegar stops algae and everything else from growing too.
So you could just use vinegar in your jacuzzi, maybe?
Yeah, but it
You
could
had
dry
city
your
water?
skin a little bit too much. So you might want to put some, coconut cream in there.
So you could just use regular water, city water.
If you use
We
if
only
you're
have
using a
city
sand
water.
filter and vinegar, you'll be fine. You just have to neutralize the poisons in the city water.
So does the sand
LA has
have to be inside the jacuzzi?
LA has 192 chemicals in the water. San Diego has 168 chemicals in the water.
So to neutralize the chemicals in the water, the vinegar alone would do that?
It will help. That's why when you want to neutralize them completely, you need a high calcium and other minerals, and that's what comes with the milk. Or you could use, if you don't want to use that for your jacuzzi, you could use Epsom salt and vinegar.
Huh.
So the sand filter, does it have to be in the jacuzzi, or is it something that you just fit it on the outside?
Sit it on the outside. It's like, I got my jacuzzi. It's 10 feet in diameter. It's concrete, poured concrete. And I keep it, there's a center section. There's a seat level if a lot of people are in it. But when it's just me, I go in it every day, almost every day when I'm in town. I just keep it only just above the seat level. So I'm down in the center section, which is about, 5 foot diameter. So the heating bill isn't high, and I can heat the thing in an hour instead of 6, 7 hours if I've got it full. It's about a 500-gallon jacuzzi if it's full, but 14 people can fit in. When it's small, 3 people, 4 people can fit in comfortably. When I have it on the low level.
So the
And that's where I
commercial
keep it.
system.
And this, let's say the jacuzzi's here, my whole filter system and heater are in a separate house that was built, probably 45 feet away from the jacuzzi itself. But I keep mine outdoors.
So the commercial chemical things that you can use to treat jacuzzis, like
They're bad for your body.
Bagua,
They're bad for your body.
What about electronic chlorinators?
Pardon?
Electronic chlorinators?
Electronic chlorinators work off of turning salt into chlorine. The chlorine that doesn't have a chloroform vapor, and those are fine. I will swim in those every day if I had that.
What is that?
But it's
Electronic?
Yeah, they have. If you put salt in the water, they've got an electronic field that sends a signal through the water, and it turns salt into a more natural chlorine that does not have chloroform vapor. And just use sea salt if you're going to do that. And those are good for swimming pools or small pool. If you're using a jacuzzi or something like that, it's fine. But if you've got a lot of chemicals in the water, you're still going to need something to chelate with those chemicals that you use in city water.
How about daily showers or baths with city water? Same thing.
Same thing. I would never take a shower in those. I always take baths. When I was living in the city and having the city water, I always took baths only every 2 to 3 days, and always put my milk, my vinegar, and my sea salt in the water. I found that putting 2-3 tablespoons of coconut cream in there really makes the skin nice. That's what I would use now if I had to do that. But I have my own well, so not a problem. If you have a question, Ken.
What about raw, unheated organic chocolate?
It's fine. It's fine. Cocoa beans and the nibs.
You have little nibs?
Yeah. I have. I've made chocolate. I've got a chocolate recipe for that. I don't know if it's in. I don't think it's in the book. But I make ice cream with it. Like orange chocolate ice cream, and that's fine.
What's the recipe?
Just don't do it too often.
What's the recipe?
You'll have to email me for it. I've got it. It's called the orange. I've got an orange ice cream and orange cheesecake, chocolate orange cheesecake.
Don't do it too often. Because why? What's
Because
too often?
it's still high in theobromine and caffeine. It can cause irritability, cause diarrhea, it can cause hyperactivity if you have it too often. But if you're making the chocolate the way I said in the book, if you let it ferment like I suggest, it tastes like rum chocolate. And I love rum chocolate. No. Chocolate. The actual cocoa beans, raw cocoa beans.
Where do you get those?
If you have it with the butter, if you make it the way I say to make it, that caffeine's not going to be able to be released from the fat, nor will the theobromine, and you get the taste of it.
That wasn't in your book, though, was it?
No, this is something I created since, the cocoa beans weren't available at that time, and I wasn't finished with my 2 years experiments with it.
So
I
we
didn't
can get
finish
that
with
from
that
you,
until
that
November.
recipe?
Like I say, I'm going to email them to Cynthia, and then you can get the recipe from her.
All right. Thank you.
Great.
Thanks.
There's a website that will be released this week or next week, where I've contracted with this man to make my books available in electronic form, PDF format. So you will be able to search the whole book on your computer instantly, so you don't have to go through pages, go through the index and look around. Also on the website itself, all the information that I have, published and not published, will be on that website, along with all the books. So if you want to search one thing, it will give you a whole list of hits come up like that of information on a disease or a particular thing or a particular subject. So you have all of my knowledge at your fingertips like that. And I think subscription is only $80 a year or something like that. So
How will we know about that?
I'm going to email it out next week. They're selling only they'll sell hardback books, but it's mainly for electronic, my books in the electronic form. I've contracted for them that's their exclusive, and to have all my information searchable on their website. And it's We Want To, the 2 is the numeral 2, live. We want to live. And that's the website. You can go there now and subscribe. It's already ready. It's just that I haven't proofed it yet. And I was going to do that this week.
Great. So that means if somebody was asking me about the mercury, and I've said that you have had a test done, you've had you've been to a laboratory and had the animals and yourself safely tested, that would be on that site to be able to check the amount of mercury.
That will not be on there until I finish the detox book. So that information's in the detox book.
So it's not everything.
Well, it's everything that I can release that isn't part of the book. Because I can't release the information in the detox book because of my contract with the publisher. So that will go on that website once.
But it'll be in the book too, though.
Yeah, it'll be in the book and the website once it's on the detox book. Once the detox book is published, hopefully in the fall.
But what I was trying to get at is, and I think others were asking, the information that will be on the website will be more than
that's in both books.
Be more than that.
Yep.
It'll be extra.
Yeah, there'll be interviews that have. He has interviews on there. People who've interviewed me, the information that I've given them and their questions and answers. I have 2 years of question and answer sessions like we're having here that were all transcribed. They'll all go on the website. So that in the next 6 months you're going to have a plethora of information there at your fingertips.
I have a question about something and you look it up. Will there give, for instance, research on where that information comes from, or
if I've given that, like in the book, when I've cited in the book, of course it will come up in the footnote or in the bibliography. You're going to have all that information at your hand without having to leaf through a bunch of books and papers and pages. It'll be like going to an electronic law library, which is a dream. Because when I was studying law and doing law and suing the city of Los Angeles and the police department, I mean, before they put all that stuff digitally, I would spend a week in the law library and get very little done. When they put all of that, all the law books on the websites of the universities, I was able to, put the exact words that I wanted. I would have to go read and look all through all this stuff. The hits would just come up like that. So I was able to write, documents, in hours instead of weeks. So that way you'll have that information of mine. And it will keep building, and also there's going to be a newsletter that will come out every 2 months giving new information.
Oh, really good. That's great. That's a really good thing. Thank you.
Okay. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, that's great.
Ron, question?
Dry skin. Causes, remedies, commercial lotions.
Okay, I just told you why the skin gets toxic. Poisons perspire out the body. So the skin's going to be dry for the rest of your life, probably. So you have to put some kind of lubrication on the outside. Primal Facial Body Care Cream is always the best. Nutrient-wise, Primal Facial Body Care Cream is on page 145, I believe it is, of the recipe book. Somebody's recorder just clicked off.
Yeah, Lorraine, maybe yours.
The Primal Facial Body Care Cream is the best. That's in the page 145 in the recipe book. Next would be the coconut oil. If you're getting it from James in Los Angeles, it's the Thailand coconut oil that's made. A friend of mine, a patient of mine on Koh Samui in Thailand, has made. I've been to the home of the people who make it. I've watched it being made. It's perfect. Also, on wildernessfamilynaturals.com, they carry a Philippine fermented coconut oil. It's made the same way as we make it in Koh Samui, but it's just made in the Philippines. Now, he used to allow the coconut oil to reach about 105, 110 degrees. After talking with him for 3 months last year, he brought the level down to 96 degrees.
That Wilderness Family?
Yep. Wilderness Family Naturals.com.
I have that at my place if you want to get that.
Yeah, so that's the Philippine fermented coconut. They have other coconut oils, but that's the only one that's low temperature.
Just rub it in.
Yeah, just rub it in and wipe away the excess off after 20 minutes. Put it on very thinly and it goes a long way. But you really don't need. That's pure oil. In the Primal Facial Body Care Cream, you've got nutrients to feed the skin, not just protect it. Oil, when you ever have just a pure oil, it is more detoxifying. When it seals off, the dry air, you'll lose less moisture and your skin will be dry. But it won't nutrify your skin like the Primal Facial Body Care Cream. Alternating, one day with the Primal Facial, the next day with the coconut oil, that's a good way to do it.
What about commercial lotions?
Commercial lotions are all chemical. They're not food. So they poison the cells. Remember, anything that's cooked has heavy metals and toxins in it. And you read the scare rates and all that stuff, and you get online and you search out the side effects of those, they're pretty nasty.
So there's no lotion?
There is no lotion that's wrong that you can buy in the store. You have to make your own lotion.
They're not allowed to make them all, are they, anymore?
No, it's illegal.
You said anything that cooked has heavy metals in it?
But they're not released. See, when you cook a food, the plants eat strychnine, the mercury, the lead, the iron. All of those elements they make food of. They make biochemical substances. And they're of value when they're in their proper ratios and they're connected with the vitamins and proteins and minerals and enzymes. They're not a problem. But once you cook the food, you fractionate all those bonds, so then the metals are just like they are in the earth, and they are poisonous. Do you have questions?
Okay, it relates to myself. That eating raw milk, raw cream. How long will I have to? I'm getting too fat. I love it. I love it. But how long do you think?
Well, the cream will put on more weight than anything.
Well, I'm doing exactly by what you told me to do.
Well, just cut down everything by maybe a tablespoon at a time.
I've been doing that.
Yeah.
I have 2 drinks every 2-3 hours.
Yeah. Well, just cut it down a little bit more. Ratio everything, cut it down.
Yeah. How long do you think I need to have it?
The rest of your life?
The rest of my life. So
I will never stop drinking milk and cream.
I want to get back to size 8.
Don't care. It's not healthy. You know how good you feel now.
I feel wonderful.
Yeah, so keep it. Who cares what you look like? You look good. I mean, who wants to be skinny and unhappy?
Well, I was skinny, and I'm healthy, but now I'm fatter.
And happy and healthier.
But I'd still like to be down to size 8.
Well, when you've been on the diet as long as I have, you'll be skinny. Maybe 30 years. Well, you didn't have chemo and radiation. You may do it in 15, 20 years. Or less. Who knows? Like I said, the one woman that's only been on the diet 14 years, she's thin now. She's very thin. She's thinner than I am, but she carries 22-24% body fat.
Okay, so I still need the cream with the milk because I know there's less cream than milk.
You can cut it down. You can cut it down as long as you're not comfortable with your weight. But if you start dropping weight, then I would say add it back. Because you're in the perfect weight right now for health.
More than I ever was.
You're the perfect weight for good health. In your condition. I would say enjoy that.
Just stay with the cream.
Stay with it, yeah. Well, stay with your weight. You can cut out the cream and just drink the milk if you keep gaining. But right now, you don't need to gain anymore. You're perfect weight. Okay? Do you have a question, Mike?
Yeah, it's kind of broad.
I like broads.
Hi, broads. What does a sustainable world look like in terms of fuels, agriculture,
Well, the sustainable one is so primitive, it has no cars, it has no TV, it has no electricity. That's perfect, the way the natives live. That is perfectly ecological. But the way I'm going to run the health center, we're going to have hydropower, we're going to have sun, solar power.
Nuclear energy.
Pardon?
No
nuclear energy. The machines will be oiled with coconut oil. Everything will be electric, that's powered by the sun and hydro.
What do you think of these biofuels?
The bio what?
The biofuels, like biodiesel, ethanol.
They still have toxic vapors, and they still have heavy metals into the air. So they're still very toxic.
Even if it's like peanut oil.
It's a vegetable oil.
Right.
It will harden in our systems. It'll cause hardening of the lungs.
So that's a joke. All these biodiesel.
Well, that's the propaganda that they're putting out there because they want to sell it and make it big. But they're, everybody's looking at, it's a vegetable oil, it's got to be good. That's insane.
Right, so it's still a problem.
Yep.
So then they say they're not carcinogenic and all that stuff.
That's bullshit. Absolutely carcinogen, probably more so.
Than petroleum?
Than petroleum.
Where's that bubble?
Yep. Remember, anything that's made from the vegetable oil that's burned, that will harden quickly in the human body.
One of the statements they make is that it burns up the CO2 that it uses. Or, the plants feed off CO2, so the CO2 that it produces, it burns back up.
They're just talking about one element of the exhaust. What about the other elements, the heavy metals, the other exhaust contamination? They're just talking about one element. Yeah. It's a big element, but that's just one element. The plants, they'll be fine. Well, will we?
They're also having an issue with clear-cutting forests to plant vegetables or to make the biodiesel.
Yeah.
We're doing it for the beef.
Yeah. Well, look what they did in Africa. You take the whole north of Africa as a desert because Egypt over-cultivated. Cut down the trees, so Egypt had a whole north of the continent of Africa was their agricultural bed. It's a desert because of what they did.
You're talking 2,000 years ago?
Yeah. Thousands of years ago. Yeah.
That would be like the
yeah, 2,000 to 10,000 years ago they did it.
So at one time that was all lush.
That was all lush. African lush territory.
There are those who would argue that if you eat beef, we have to produce that many beef, which means the beef have to graze on land. How can that be sustainable?
Well, that's if you're trying to get the cattle to graze unnaturally. You let cattle graze on whatever grows, it's wonderful. Take a look at Hawaii. My God, the grass is growing as green as this, and the cattle don't need much room. You just graze in tropical areas, Sure, you cut down forests, but let me tell you, those forests grow faster than you can cut them. At Pangaea, they have to cut back every day almost, to keep that jungle from creeping into their growth area. So that's a a little off. But when you're clearing the land completely, taking out all trees, and you use chemicals, you're going to erode the land. And that's the problem. And that's the agriculture. But if you let grass grow and you've got cattle running around in a jungle, you've got that growing heavily. It's going to grow and grow and grow. It's not going to be a problem.
People say primal diet is not sustainable living and eating because you need cows for milk and cream and you need animals for meat. I mean, do you think it's as sustainable as anything else?
Absolutely.
Eating primally?
Can you imagine? Look at all the fields where they grow rice. 2/3 of Thailand and Asia and Cambodia and Thailand and Malaysia and Indonesia is rice paddies. Rice
Millions
paddies.
of people.
They've been that way for how long?
And they've been eating it. When you take a cow can live off of the same land and feed more people, nourish them and make them healthy.
Really?
Absolutely.
I didn't realize that. I
So
thought
John Robbins saying that
I thought it was the other way around.
off a 6 acre and a medium has to have 3.5 acres.
Right.
It's a myth.
One example is Florida. Florida produces the most incredible beef. Just the wilds of Florida. I mean, these little crackers that were raising out there, I mean, just turn them loose, man.
Yeah, because they could eat that grass, you know.
Just incredible beef industry.
I mean,
And then they came with the dredges, started dredging and everything. Okay, we're going to grow sugar cane. All this other stuff,
Just figure this way. My family, my grandparents had a 55-acre farm. 40 cows, milking cows, and about 200 sheep, about 1,000 chickens.
On 50 acres?
55 acres.
They had,
Yeah.
They had 1,000 sheep on 55 acres?
No, not 1,000 sheep.
Okay.
No, 1,000 chickens.
Chickens.
Yeah. They had about 200 sheep.
And
the most.
50 cows?
And 40 cows.
40 cows.
Milking cows.
All on the 50 acres.
Yeah. 4 Clydesdale horses, plus other horses, and grew corn on 30 acres, 35 acres. That fed all of those animals, all year round. So there's a lot of propaganda out there about what is sustainable, people are making arguments, they don't know anything about farming.
Yeah. Before I met you, I thought John Robbins knew what he was talking about.
No, he's not. He's gotten the information from somebody else, and that person wasn't a farmer.
Yeah.
Or he was a farmer from Texas where it's all desert, and you need thousands of acres for a few cows because there's not much there to eat because it's desert.
If I could just interject, I grew up in South Dakota. When I grew up, it was just kind of the end of the family farm era. And it's interesting to note that my mother's 92 years old, living alone in her own place and everything. When I asked Mom, what did you grow up on? Well, raw eggs, the dirt, the raw milk, raw cow, all that other stuff. And all her friends, they're all in their 90s and their 100s and stuff like that. They're still living. The next generation down is dying off at 60. And there's nobody there's 3 counties there. There's only one dairy farm left where everybody used to have a milking cow. There's only one farm that even milks, and then of course that's just commercial. Nobody has no cow anymore. I mean, it's the biggest tragedy in the health.
Do you have a question, Lisa?
Yeah.
This plane is clouded.
Okay. About my diet. I'm wondering how, sometimes I feel like changing my diet around. Quantities of one thing, like for
long as you go with those cravings and you stay balanced, that's fine. But if it starts imbalancing you, it's not the way you should do it. You should go against your instincts.
Okay, so like what about the green juice? Is there a good point, like now,
Cause more hunger. They increase digestibility. They clean the system quicker, so all of a sudden the body's, oh, I feel better. I can eat more. You know. So like if I'm going, like somebody gave me an ostrich egg for Christmas. I didn't get it till I got back. Or for New Year's, and there was 5 cups of egg in this 5 cups of egg in this one egg. 5 cups. 3 cups of white and 2 cups of yellow, of yolk. And I ate it in less than 24 hours, and I was still hungry. I made, sometimes I'll make a shake with 24 eggs in it. And I can eat, that's 2 quarts about, or right around 1.5 quarts, depending on the size of the eggs, and I'll still be hungry.
yeah. So what about doing it at night? You want something to eat every 5 hours. So I used to wake up and eat dry and feel honey butter. But if I do a dry egg, I totally feel good and I'll go back to sleep.
That's fine.
Have a raw egg.
Yeah.
And then how many do you have at one time, like plain raw? Like I can 6, so I can do 2, then I get nausea, like cheese.
Right, yeah. It depends upon the person.
How do you
We just keep eating them until you get, you really turned off. But I've eaten, like I say, I can eat a cup of eggs at a time, and then all of a sudden I start getting nauseous.
Yeah, the nausea is
And usually a cup of eggs, if they're normal sized eggs, an egg is about 1.5 ounces to 2 ounces, depending upon the size of the medium egg. Some eggs, you get 3 ounces out of the big eggs. So whatever it takes to make a cup. And then that's all I can drink at a time is 1 cup. However, I have consumed that sometimes up to 2 cups at a time with no problem. Especially if I've eaten cheese first.
Have you always used to do honey butter in between?
No. Well, it's just that the egg has a tendency, because it pulls out a lot of toxins, to dry the mouth and lips. So put honey on your lips or eat the honey and butter. That's okay. Yeah, the cream is more alkalinizing, the butter is more acidic. Yeah, well, when I travel, I always take my honey, butter, and cheese. That's all. I always take those, because I can always get eggs and raw meat wherever I go. Yeah, I can't go long without it, but I can usually get vegetable juice. There are health food stores that make it, or, I've got clients or friends that make it for me, while I'm traveling. In Bangkok, I get, sugar cane juice. Fresh sugar cane juice. Cambodia, they make it right on the street.
I drank that in Burma, too.
Yeah.
I went and got coconut milk.
Yeah. Right.
Sugar cane. And raw eggs, that's how I want it.
Yeah. Yeah, you get 2 acids. I'm sorry, I couldn't understand you.
Some people, when they just do the raw eggs, they put on to their clients really debilitated.
Right. No. They still need a juice once every 5 days. Whether it's 1 ounce or 2 ounces or 5 ounces. They just need a little bit. But I only put people on pure raw egg diets when they have a severe digestion problem or allergies with food. No, it has enzymes. It's just they're detoxifying enzymes.
You get more and more fermented, you can drink it.
Yes, you can drink it, and I do that as a part of the detox. That's going into the detox book. So have one a day if you want. That helps you detox all the cooked vegetables, fats that you've eaten. It helps break them down. The vegetable oils that you've eaten in your lifetime from eating your cooked vegetables that your parents made you eat.
Yeah.
If you didn't like it like me. So I eat the fermented juice. Anytime you want to get rid of anything in your body that you've eaten cooked, you eat it fermented. Now, Sally Fallon and a lot of those people that go for all this fermented foods, they continue to eat cooked foods, so yeah, they eat a lot of fermented foods. And only the tribes like the Hunzas, they cooked, goat, and they didn't eat much raw meat. They ate a lot of raw dairy, but they ate a lot of fermented foods to make up for their cooking. They were living in a clean environment, so they didn't get a lot of disease. Because the other things that people normally cooked, they weren't eating cooked. So, but they were having their fermentation. So, if you're not eating, I said Sally Fallon, well, all that fermented food is better for you. I said, yeah, if you're a cooked food eater, definitely, yeah. So as long as you eat cooked food, you need to eat a lot of fermented food. It should be a regular part of your diet. It'll help your digestion.
What we do for 4 days on the green juice, so I can tell when it starts to turn like that.
Yeah.
And then I want to hit diarrhea, but
yeah, but I only suggest one a day if you're going to do that. Yeah. The others fresh.
Okay, then after the 10 questions.
Okay.
I appreciate it.
Do you have questions?
Yes. Sometimes I get the cracks in the side of the brain, in the corners. Is that because of the itch?
No, that's because of the toxins that are moving through the mouth, out the mouth. And remember, I've said that the nervous system and brain use more free radicals than any other part of the body. Remember, nerves function with electricity and light. What is the conductor of electricity and light? Metals, iron, mercury, aluminum. All of those metals, which are toxic when they're in a non-bioactive form, meaning in a cooked form. Noisy planes except him. Well, when those heavy metals leave the brain, where most of them are contained, they leave through the mouth, the gums, the lips, the tongue, the salivary gland. That's why people get dry mouth. It's not dehydration at all. It's that those heavy metals come through and out the mouth, and the fats all from that area are pulled with those toxins to keep those toxins from damaging the body. So that leaves dry lips. But it's not dehydration. It has nothing to do with water. The best thing to do is the oils in the honey absorb into the lips the best, so that keeps your lips from drying the best. But as long as you have heavy metals coming out your salivary glands, you're going to have problems on the sides of your mouth for those people who have a tendency to send a lot out the lips. I do, so I've always had these scars on the side of my mouth. I don't have the sores I used to. I used to have constant sores on the side. I don't have sores, but I have the scars from it.
And what is your position on contacts for eyes? Because you use glasses and things like that?
It's not a good thing to do.
Because of the solutions they have all kinds of, I mean, I remember they had
Thimerosal, which is liquid mercury, all kinds of toxins. Pardon?
They have thimerosal free, but it's still what?
It's still a chemical. They're using, glycerin and stuff like that. It's all chemicals. I mean, if you want to try to make a solution, take distilled water and take sea salt and put it in there and use that. Distilled water and sea salt. And what it is take about a pinch of finely granulated sun-dried sea salt in 8 ounces of distilled water or 2 grains of the heavier salt, sun-dried sea salt, in there. I just keep it in for patients who come who wear contacts, I've got a little thing for them and I use that, and I've had that solution last for over a year and a half without any problem. I put it in a small glass Perrier bottle. I don't leave it in plastic. Yep. 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 Chemical. Yeah. I don't know either. I haven't experimented.
And how about sunglasses? You don't recommend those to dilate the eye?
I would say if it's causing you headaches or severe, problems, then use sunglasses.
I know you recommend being in the sun, having
sun gazing and all of that, yeah. Vitamin D is very helpful for the eyes, keeps them young and alive. Pardon?
Only if you're very sensitive to the light?
Yes.
Does that cause cataracts or anything down
the sun or the sunglasses? No, the sun, well, as long as you have good fats in the body, the sun causes the oils, the fats in the skin to transform into vitamin D, including the cornea and in the retina. So it aids the body. But if you don't have good fats, let's say you're full of vegetable oils and you don't have any good animal fats in the body, it can cause a cancer, cataracts, glaucoma. It can cause all kinds of problems.
Are those two things reversible? Glaucoma and cataracts? I asked because my dad has cataracts right now, so he's not on a good diet, and I don't think it's the same.
I've seen them reverse on this diet in animal and human and other animals.
When you're really almost at 9 hours here?
Yeah, I had a pug that was given to me. He had MS, couldn't even stand up or walk, couldn't even have a bowel movement or urinate on his own. His keeper used to have to rub him, and he was completely crippled, and he just shook, and that was his life. He just shook, and they had to hand feed him. I put him on the diet, and in 6 months, he was jumping up and down off the couch. His cataracts, he was completely blind from cataracts and deaf. In 6 months, half of his cataracts were gone. He could see light and enough to see the doggy door and to go where he wanted to go in just 6 months.
with a primal diet?
Yeah, primal diet.
What did he eat? You said your dog was different from us.
Well, I gave him raw meat, eggs, honey, and butter. That's what I fed him. Twice a day.
Can I ask a question relating to that? I have a dog that's 13 and he's in good health. I feed him raw meat in between the meals, and I'm starting to put raw meat in with his crunchies, breakfast and dinner. Question. What else should I be doing this? Because he's not good. He's pretty healthy. Should I be giving him this?
I wouldn't feed him anything but, a dog in the wild is a scavenger, but mainly they eat raw meat. That's their diet, raw bones. So most dogs, are you a small dog or a large dog?
No, he's 60 pounds.
60 pounds? Well, you should be eating red meat and, and bones.
But I'm afraid, I noticed the crunchies are wearing his teeth down, so I've been putting it in water. So I'm putting crunchies
well, then
in
he's
water.
not good. If he's already getting deterioration of his teeth, he's not in good health.
He's not.
Really?
Yeah, you think he is, but he's not.
He's not in good health. Once they start losing their teeth and their
his
teeth
teeth
start
are fine.
wearing down,
I see they're wearing down.
that's a bad sign. Because all dogs in the wild don't wear down their teeth, and they eat huge bones. Their dentine constantly regenerates. Yep.
Because he can barely get up. He has a hard time getting up.
I give him glucosamine twice a day. That's what the vet said.
Give it to the vet. Shove it up his
Really?
butt. Yeah.
Really? Because it seems like he's getting up out of his seat better. It seems like he's walking better.
Just give him the raw meat, the eggs, the honey and butter.
Instead of the crunchies.
The crunchies and garbage. That's not dog food. That's industrial food that tells you it's dog food.
Wow.
Can you feed them for the dogs? Can you just buy the regular beef instead of getting,
You get them the worst beef you can get. I mean, not the... You should get them New Zealand. We get all the garbage pieces, all the stuff that they throw away.
All the organs and everything.
All the stuff that they throw away. I have people who have the dogs. They go to, they go to these health food stores and say, "Give me, about 5 pounds of your throwaway meats and fat." Yeah, you get it for 50 cents a pound, $1 a pound. Yeah. Why not? Then give it to your animals.
Are they frozen?
So that none of it is frozen, no?
Not if it's a health food store.
Yeah, they don't. Okay.
Oh, health food store. That's a good idea.
Okay, do you have a question?
Yeah, I was wondering if this part of it helps with internal information.
Pardon?
Does it help with internal information, like lung inflammation, fibrosis? How does the primal diet help, or does it?
Well, you have to understand the infection is a good thing, whether it's bacterial, viral, or parasitical. They are there to break down the toxic tissue and remove it so the body can get rid of the waste products and rebuild it to new. So infection is always important. You just need to supply the body with the proper nutrients to make sure that the detoxification happens properly and that the nutrients are delivered so that the regeneration, the healing can occur. And if you've got a lung problem, eggs are the key. Lots of eggs, lots of eggs. Pardon? In fibrosis, that means the body is not tearing down the toxic tissue, the dead cells, it's mummifying them. So they're hardening and getting thicker and thicker. You can't absorb oxygen in tissue like that. And if his lungs are turning into fibrosis, he's not going to live very long unless he does a diet where he can get high bacteria, where he can have a lot of infection to break it down. Stopping the infection just allows the fibrosis to get worse quicker.
So eggs
Eggs, lots of eggs, eggs, and eggs, and eggs. Well, how big is the person? How large is the person? Under 75, and how tall? 5'10", so he should be eating about 40 eggs a day. 40, 45 eggs a day. And honey and butter, if you'll take it.
How much time?
Well, that should get him to a point where he can eat better, maybe in about 3 months. Yeah, honey, butter, and eggs, but mostly eggs. Do you have a question?
Yeah, question for my sister. She was talking this morning, she's breaking out on what I guess is hives, welts, all of it. It's not crazy and it's become at night. What it is, what comes.
When it's coming out at night, it's coming out of the nerves. And it's heavy metals of some kind that's causing welts.
When you get allergy testing, all this stuff, and she's flying, I didn't see next time, but in the meantime, she's like crazy.
Well, when I forced the detoxification with the sugarcane juice, I had welts all over. That even I refused to scratch them. They still turned into scabs. That's how toxic the substance was. So I took one scraping and took it to a lab. It only cost me $200. Here it's $2,300 to $3,200 for the same lab test. So I had it done there, and I had byproducts of penicillin that had been injected into my rear end. So all that was penicillin that was bound with a lot of sugar byproducts from all the sugar. I was a sugar hound because I was diabetic. I mean, you know what sugar crisps are? I put 4 tablespoons of sugar crisps in with my sugar crisps. 4 tablespoons of sugar in with my sugar crisps. I wasn't bad as Hitler putting, sugar on top of his cake and icing, but I was pretty bad. And so when I got all those injections, I had a lot of sugar products with it. So when I ate the fermented sugarcane juice, it started a massive detoxification of that in the bones in my hip bones. And my spine started getting very sore, and I got these huge welts. And I would take cold slices out of the refrigerator, and I was in Vietnam at the time in a hotel, so I got stuck in my hotel for 3 days, just dealing with the itching. I took slices of cold tomato and rubbed them all the spots, and then the next hour I would use cucumber, and then I'd get into a bath with lots of salt, and tomato in there and soothe it. So every hour I had to do something to keep up with the intense itching, so I wouldn't scratch it. But still, even without scratching it, they still scabbed over. That's how toxic it was. When you have penicillin is from a mold, and you know what molds do to things. They eat it apart and then cause it to dry like the desert. And that's what is happening to the skin as it's coming out through the skin. So those are the things I suggest. She just has to keep treating them every hour. Tomato, cucumber, and a tomato bath, like I talk about Alex in the book.
That's all external.
That's all external. Internal, it's the lube, the moisturizing lube formula. Lots of eggs. Eggs again, for that. Because the eggs can help start pulling some of it through the intestines. Not sure that everybody wants that, because if it starts causing welts and that kind of scarring in the intestines and somebody doesn't produce enough mucus, they're going to have a problem. So if she has a normal, okay digestive system, doesn't have constipation, then she can eat a lot of eggs. Pardon?
I don't think she was okay anything.
Oh, then stick with the surface and honey and butter.
is going to be coming out from the brain.
Well, it's from the nerves if it's happening at night.
From the toxic metal?
Toxic heavy metals. Could be, metals that went along with antibiotics or vaccines. Because they put mercury, aluminum, formaldehyde in 96% of the vaccine.
I have for a lot of blood all over my body, and I see the hairs with a lot of aluminum in it.
Aluminum usually won't cause welts like that. You have to remember that from the time you have the hives, you have to wait at least a month to take that hair. Because that's what will be thrown off at that time. The new hair coming out, that will hold the key to what you were throwing off. But if you took a sample while you were going through the hives, you would not know what's being thrown off. Just remember, your hair's behind what's happening in your body. So you'll have to let the hair grow out for a month and then take that amount. Shave it off. You let your hair grow long and you're going to take a clip of it. Just remember that only that small section that relates to what grew at that time is going to give you the clue of what it was, what was involved. A lot of practitioners don't think. And they'll go take a whole clipping of hair and say, oh, well, you got a lot of mercury. Well, you're talking about, did it happen last month? Did it happen this month? Did it happen 6 months ago? So they don't give you a good picture of your cycles in your body. If you're having a problem now, they're basing the past, the analysis of what your body was throwing off in your hair from a different time. So they're not getting a proper analysis, giving improper diagnosis, and then giving improper resolution. But the problem is, by the time your hair grows out, it's too late. You've got to know a remedy for what's going on with the actual symptom. Joe, do you have a question?
Yeah, I'm wondering about those lasers that they use to weigh my food, like my celery, and pass through the butter, and that's a cash register, and also I have a printer that is going down, and I've been recommended to buy a laser printer, and is this laser stuff that?
If you're too close, I have a laser printer.
Be about 6 feet away from me, 5 feet away.
Not a problem. If you're within 2 feet of it while it's on, while you're copying, then it can be a problem.
What about the toner that's in with the laser?
The laser, when you have a laser machine, it seals it into the paper. That's a better machine. You got a bubble jet, it gets into the air.
Yeah, that's what I have.
So, I have laser for that reason. I don't want, vapors flying in the air and the heat getting into my body.
What about those lasers at the checkout stand?
I don't let them scan my food.
Really?
Yep. I say, please don't scan.
Do you have them use the blocker on the scale?
Well, what I do, if they have to weigh something, I have them put a plastic bag, with one end covering this part of the laser, and then the rest of the paper bag covering that, brown paper bag, and that seals it in. And then I have, I personally put it on the scale. And the glass is here and the glass is here, and I put it right behind the glass. Even though I've got it covered with the paper, I still put it behind the glass.
Well, people have a laser blocker, a big thick block of hazardous on top of the scale.
Oh, good.
If you ask them.
Yeah.
But what about the milk and stuff? You don't want that to be laser.
I don't let them. I say, please don't scan this register by hand. So they have to. There's this code number on there on the barcode, and they have to put that in.
How bad is it if we don't let them? If we let them do it?
It's not too bad. I had radiation therapy, 10 weeks of radiation therapy. So if I let my food pass over for the week, I get nauseous by the end of the week. So I don't let them scan anything. Not even
What about
water.
the that haven't had the problem?
Don't let them scan your meat nor butter. Those are the key foods.
What about celery?
Celery is okay. It won't be a problem for you. Meat, butter, any kind of fat, you don't want to let them scan.
What about the milk then?
Cream, you don't want to let them scan. Milk, you don't want to let them scan. Yeah, they just have to type the code in. Yeah. So I always choose a non-busy time if I'm going to a regular store to shop.
I got one other question. That leaping magnet, wearing them in your back, sleeping on the pads.
Well, when I did experiments with those, I found that sleeping on the pad for about 6 weeks is okay, no more than 5 hours a night. Otherwise, it starts pulling out too many heavy metals and too many toxins. It causes a high adrenaline, and it makes you feel like you're more energy, but it causes massive toxicity in the system. So you're going to use those, you have to use them, in small amounts, small periods of time.
At work, if you're putting them on your back for a couple hours.
Couple of hours, yeah.
So
A day,
if you slept
that's
on
it.
for a couple of years, then...
You're asking for trouble.
Well, I did already in
Yeah.
the past.
They'll probably make the skin very poor and very dry, because most of that stuff's going to come out the skin. Heavy metals. Okay, Barbara.
I noticed in the last 6 months there's been a lot more hair falling out than usual, and my hair has gone grayer more quickly in the last 6 months. It's been going grey, but it's much speeded up. Is this from, I've also read that the egg whites are high in biotin. I'm lacking biotin. I have at least 4 to 6 eggs a day, and I've never not had an egg.
Okay, if you
day.
read the new book, I talk about it. It's in the old book, but the spell checker changed avidin to albumin. So in this book, it's proper. Egg white has avidin, the egg yolk has biotin. There are scientists that say the avidin binds with biotin and doesn't allow it to be utilized. It's utilized in a toxic body by taking biocarbons. It neutralizes biocarbons and removes it from the body. Stop eating cooked food so you don't have so many frickin' biocarbons. So you need to eat a lot of eggs because you've got a lot of biocarbons. So the scientists are just looking at, gee, this happens, let's not do that. They're not looking at, yeah, this has a good function.
So that's not causing anything?
No, that's always heavy metals. It's usually aluminum that causes graying of hair.
So how can I either speed it up or...
Yeah, eating raspberries with coconut cream will help pull the aluminum out in a non-toxic way. Hopefully, it won't all go out through the scalp. Even with those mixtures, at your age, it's going to be difficult not to keep it from turning your hair gray. But my hair was completely gray after chemotherapy.
Was it?
So and it goes in. 5 years ago, I had a whole patch of gray hair. It stayed there for about a year and a half, went back again. Goes in and out. Here, this was all gray a year and a half ago. It's going back to its color.
So that's going
so
brown at the
just
top there. It looks as if you've dyed it.
No, it's going back.
No, but it does. It's got a brownie look, hasn't it? I thought you told me, I'm only joking, but you'd swear that you've dyed that. It's got a browner look.
Yeah, it's getting dark. Well, always in the winter, my hair goes dark.
Yeah.
And then in the summer, it's
so
lighter.
the eggs, no way eating egg whites. I have never not eaten eggs every day. I've always had at least 5 eggs a day, always, for 2.5 years. That's all right?
That's fine.
Some days I
Wonderful.
have 12, sometimes I have 18. I have never felt relief from my lungs with eating the eggs myself. And I've eaten that huge amount of eggs every day for a month. And I didn't feel any change in my lungs. I'm not saying it didn't do it, but I didn't feel any change. So,
well, it's to arrest the poisons, but if you've got fibroids in your lungs, the eggs aren't going to work that. You need bacteria in the lungs. You need to eat foods that are high in bacteria.
but I'm always having my next clabbered milk.
Clabbered milk helps the bacteria in the intestines, not in the lungs.
Okay.
High meat, especially chicken. High chicken will help bring bacteria to the lungs, will help the lungs.
How do you get the high chicken?
Same way. No, you don't grind it. You chop it up. Let it get really stinky. Foul as can be. Pardon?
When it gets stinky fast, it doesn't still high.
It's just certain bacteria is growing faster than others. The stinky bacteria is growing faster. Yeah, that's just a certain bacteria.
And so you're actually inhaling bacteria?
No, just the vapors from it. It's gas. It's like you having a fart. I'm not eating you. Gas. If I smell your fart, it's not you I'm eating. It's just your gas. So that bacteria off gases, it farts and creates that odor.
How much a day is the high?
Pardon?
How much a day are the high chicken?
I have people eating only high meats. I got one guy, he was depressed all of his life. He started on the diet, off and on because of his depression, his problems. He became a landscape artist so he wouldn't have to deal with people. And he got after 2 years, he finally took some of the high meat. And he got so happy that he only eats high meat. He won't eat any fresh meat. So he eats 2 pounds of high meat a day. You don't know anybody happier than this guy. And he doesn't have body odor, nor does he have foul breath.
And that would be really difficult.
That was all right.
But he eats that at home.
Outside the home, even.
Yes, he does. He eats it outside the home.
So 2 ounces would be good to have every now and again.
Even more.
It's so entertaining to look at everybody's face when it's like this.
You eat those with your regular meat?
Yeah. You should eat it 10 to 15 minutes before your regular meal.
Okay.
How can you make it palatable? I mean, I can't stand that.
Just put a nose clip on your nose, swimmer's nose clip, and you won't smell it. It melts in your mouth. It's so soft, tender. You had never tried it, obviously.
I did try it.
Yeah?
Yeah. Well, I've been on this for 5 years.
I know, but that doesn't tell me that you tried the high meat.
And off.
Mostly off.
Mostly off. But look, I'm healthy. I'm happy. Hey, you think I'm weird? You guys get anything about how I look. You eat that weird diet.
6 months or more in the fridge. Will it still be right if you throw it out and start again?
No, you don't have to throw it out. You just have to start opening it.
Aajonus, do you buy the Rocky Junior or Senior? Is there any difference?
Not any difference. They feed them the same. It's just that the Rocky Junior is going to be younger, more tender. The older animal is going to be more tough.
If you have to buy grocery store eggs,
that's the only kind I buy here. I mean, I'll send away when I'm going to know I'm going to be in town for a while. I buy, the chickens from Amos Miller, an Amish guy who feeds the chickens exactly what I want him to feed them. He feeds them high meat as their protein, feeds them nothing but, what they peck around in the yards and high meat. And I get eggs from them too. Very tough chicken, but it's very healthy chicken. Yep. That's what they do best with. Chickens are real nasty scavengers, so are ducks.
So
Have you
yeah,
heard of this stuff called smart chicken?
I've heard of it, but I haven't looked into it yet.
They say no antibiotics.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean they feed
No,
them.
because
If they feed them mostly soy, it's the same garbage as
how about Shelton?
About what? Shelton? Shelton is vegetarian. They're high in soy.
Or Coleman.
Coleman doesn't make chicken,
They don't?
only beef.
Real good beef?
It's okay. Uh-huh.
They were eating chickens and wanted fried chicken like this, eating bone and the whole thing on the thing. And they loved it. And then that was like 7, 8 months. And also they didn't want to fried beans anymore like that, so we brought them away.
Yeah.
And that's all they wanted. They were like eating lamb and chicken. Yeah, we paid like $7 a steak. You know, pork and all of it.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden they reject the lamb. They would eat for like 3 or 4 days. And go, why don't they want the lamb? And they eat chicken and now they don't want the lamb.
Yeah. They just go through their cycles.
Is there something specific about each meat? Or
Yeah, there is.
so when you get too much of one meat, then you
That's why I like people to eat 3 meats. Chicken, fish, and beef every day.
they want to do one time.
I know, but that's only because they're not well animals. Out in the wild, they would eat a bird in the morning, a rat in the afternoon, and all kinds of different meats. But if they had any vaccines, they're not well.
So is that why they skip back and forth?
Well, they should. They should get variety.
Because they don't like to be
Yeah, but if you get spoiled and let them have their way, they're going to eat only what they want until they're satiated with it, and then they're going to go to the next, and you have to figure out what it is that they're going to like. But if you train them in the beginning, you're getting this meat in the morning, this night, the next morning like this, and you rotate it. That's the way to do it because that's their natural diet. But they won't have any problems if they eat one meat for a long time.
Could you mention for gray hair that raspberry with
Coconut cream, butter, and dairy cream, and a little honey. And have it in the afternoon sometime.
I wanted to ask you maybe I should talk to Lisa after.
About
my dog, because I'm very close to him. He's very close to me.
Yeah, we'll talk with them. They could.
What about the flea stuff I was putting on every month? The flea stuff? No. And the heartworm stuff. Because I saw a man whose dog died of heartworm when I lived in Florida. He didn't give him the heartworm thing, and the dog died.
That's probably what killed him.
So as far as flea stuff and
a lot of these vets will say, "Oh, your dog died of heartworm," and they didn't.
They didn't. So don't give them heartworm. Don't give them flea stuff.
That's all toxic stuff.
That's neurological.
They lie.
Well, I don't know. Okay.
So do your dogs have fleas?
No. If you feed them right, they don't.
If you feed them right, they don't have fleas.
Okay. So how much of the protein should I give them each day? 55 pounds.
You've got several dogs?
One dog.
One dog. He needs about a pound of meat a day if he's indoors.
Well, I take him for a walk.
That's nothing.
1 pound
He
a
lives
day.
out in the backyard, and he runs around all the time,
Well, he's an old dog. He doesn't run, he walks.
Okay, then he's a very sedentary dog. Pound a day will be fine. Pound a day will be fine.
And that's it. And that will be all his nutrients.
Well, no, you need to give him a little butter and egg once in a while.
Butter and egg once in a while?
Yeah, chop up the meat, mix around. But he's going to need a lot of bones.
What kind of bones?
What kind of bones? I always
Give
thought
chicken bones.
I always thought bone splinters. Never give
If they're cooked, they turn brittle, and then the acids don't melt it.
So raw bones.
All dogs eat all bones in the wild. That's what they live on. They eat more bones than anything else.
So raw bones, so I have to go to a butcher and get bones.
Or you get chicken parts, with the bones in them.
And those bones will not splinter.
Buy a whole chicken and take out the breast for yourself and then the body for the dog.
That's okay.
That's what I used to do. That's what I feed the coyotes.
Whole raw
I eat the legs, they get the breast.
You
I hate white
I don't know.
So I give them the neck and all that other stuff, the wings.
It's okay, won't break a teeth.
I eat the legs.
Yeah, he's losing his teeth already on the cracker food.
Oh, I see. I just think
Well, the chicken bones, he's not going to hurt himself, but if you get hard, thick cow bones, then it may be a problem for him.
So chicken bones.
But I had a dog that was raised from 10 weeks. A friend of mine had a dog that was raised from 10 weeks old on the raw foods and eating raw bones. And this dog was 230 pounds. It was about, his head was this high, this big, and you know those big femur joints on a cow, this big? You put that in his mouth and he would just dissolve it. With one bite, just crumble it with one bite.
Was that a young dog or an old dog?
No, that was it when he got older.
Okay, so you're saying chicken parts.
Yeah. But I mean, he grew up on this diet from 10 weeks old. So he had really strong teeth. Can you imagine what he'd do to you if he did you? I'd be just mangled.
Okay, when I give him raw
like
meat,
a lion.
When I give him raw meat in 5 seconds, it's
Gone.
down.
Yeah.
5
Well, it's
seconds.
because he needs bones. You have to have bones. Dogs have to have bones.
Okay, so 1 pound of meat a day and give him butter and an egg occasionally.
What time is it? 4:30. Okay, it's time.